Okay, so welcome to the personal writing revision class. So to start off with, I want to just let everyone know that in light of recent exam results, it's not the be all and end all if you did not do well. The key thing is that you are taking on board where you went wrong and understanding that you need to put a little bit more effort in to get your grade up and just to make your writing a little bit more better, so that you're going to be able to do well in the next exam or if you have to resit it, okay? So don't be stressing yourself out if you didn't do as well as you'd hoped. Take it on board and attend these revision lessons, and just make sure that you're doing the extra work that you've been able to do, okay? What I would say first of all is this is sort of an anti-stress formula. If you do these things and if you tick them off, then it's going to your personal writing, okay? So when you go into the exam, you're going to have 45 minutes. In the Chief Examiner's report, they have said that students do so much better if they spend the first 10 minutes planning, and that's really key. They have been able to see better structured work if there has been planning that's taken place beforehand, okay? So spending those 10 minutes is really important. Do whatever works best for you. If it's a flow chart, if it's a spider diagram, if it's bullet points, get them all written down, because you will forget as you go along in the exam, and then you'll start writing, because everyone loves just to get stuck into the writing. You'll start writing and think, oh, there was a point that I could have made earlier, and then it's going to mess up the structure of your essay. So just think about planning beforehand. So do your spider diagram, do what the question is, and write some things that you're going to remember. Maybe it's alliteration, maybe you're going to use a personal anecdote or a story. Write them all down, write the points, and then that's going to make the basis for each paragraph that you do. So first point, engage the reader, make it interesting. Do remember that the examiner is going to have hundreds of these papers, okay, and they're all going to be the same, and they're all going to be in the same topic. So there's nothing worse than an examiner getting one that says, and then we did this, and then we did this, and then this happened. Think about how you can make your writing more interesting. How are you going to make it different from the person sitting beside you, so that you can make sure you get the grade, okay? So use an appropriate writing style, okay? If it's a letter, write to whom it may concern. If it's a magazine article, you might have a subheading or something like that. If it's a speech, you're going to say, good afternoon, fellow classmates, or fellow peers, or ladies and gentlemen, okay? So make it obvious to the examiner that you know what style it is that you're writing in. Okay, organising your ideas logically. Okay, make it clear for the examiner what exactly it is that you're doing, okay? Don't have asterisks or lines running over the page unless you really need to. Make it clear, logical structure right from the very beginning. Okay, use good vocabulary. That is going to be a really important one, that you need to think about what vocabulary you're using, okay? So sometimes we are tempted to use words like bad, this was a bad experience, or things like that, but you can make it a much better word. You can change it to horrific, you can change it to dreadful, you can change it to deplorable. Just make sure that you're using sophisticated vocabulary, because that's something that the examiners are looking for. Okay, next point, a range of sentence structures, okay? So use different sentence lengths. Think about your simple sentences. The cat sat on the mat, okay? Simple sentences, short ones to build up tension. Okay, he closed the door, he walked forward. Short sentences to build up tension. Then you're thinking about your compound sentences, okay? So these are the ones that have two clauses that are joined together with a connective, like however or and, or something like that, okay? So these are sort of your medium length sentences that are giving information. And then think about your longer, complex, more descriptive sentences that are using things like commas, okay? So longer ones that are building up a description of what exactly it is that's happening in your piece of personal writing. It is key that you do this, okay? You need to have sentences that are varied, that are different lengths. If they're all the same length, then you can't move above the C grade, okay? So this is what you need to be doing. Use accurate spelling, punctuation and grammar. So please remember, in this exam there are marks available for spelling, punctuation and grammar. So it is so easy to take 5 minutes at the end and just check over it. Also, if there are any words that you constantly spell wrong in class, so it might be a good idea just to have a look through your English class workbook. If there's any red ink or green ink or whatever that says okay, maybe you keep spelling there, and they are wrong. Actually sit down, take the time now and learn it. Okay, if these are key spellings that are coming up over and over again, learn them now, because that will stand you in good stead for the exam. Okay, so interesting openings. This is key. The examiner's report told us that you need to be making your opening interesting, because it is the very first thing the examiner's going to see, and if they go in with a negative attitude, then they're more likely to mark that way. So make it positive, make your story different, make it stand out. So the example I've put up is if you get a talk on maybe drugs, so perhaps the question would be write an article about your views on drugs. Okay, so a typical opening might be, today I'm going to talk about drugs. Okay, so I've changed that a little bit, and then another thing you could say instead, because that's quite boring, today I'm going to talk about drugs. Okay, thanks. We get that, we get the idea. The next thing you could change it to is something like, want to experience that feeling of flying when your little feet haven't left the ground. Okay, so you're using a rhetorical question, you're involving the reader. You also haven't really made it clear what your article is going to be about. And that's something that we as humans quite like, okay? Something that's intriguing, something that's just got us a little bit interested, but we need to read more to find out, okay? Lots of advertisement companies use this at the minute, okay? The one that stands out in my mind is the Cadbury's one, where they had the song That's Why They Call Me Mr. Fahrenheit, and they had these sort of airport equipment up and down the runway, but it had absolutely nothing to do with what the advert was about, but it got you interested, it made you want to find out more, and then you remembered it in turn. So that's something that you need to think about doing for the examiner, to make yours more memorable then, okay? So next, the third opening I've given here is, a journalist stated, "Stop getting angry at Lance Armstrong for doing drugs. I did drugs once and I couldn't even get out of bed. He did drugs and he was able to do the Tour de France." Okay, so that, again, you're using a quotation, you're using someone else's opinion, and there's a bit of humour in that. So it's an interesting opening. You haven't just said what you're going to talk about, you have made it so that the reader has actually had to do a little bit of work. And they've actually had to figure it out, and in order to do that they've had to read on, so you've had to make it more interesting. So to sum up, opening is key. Make it really interesting, make it something different, use any of the techniques that we will discuss later, just to make yours stand out, because the opening is the first thing they're going to see, so that's going to set the tone for the whole marking of the piece. Okay, so what I want you to do now while you're here is to create an opening line for each of the following topics. Okay, so just like I did there with the drugs ones, I want you to take each of these topics and create your own opening line. So first one is smoking. Is it good or bad? Okay, so is there maybe a rhetorical question that you could use? Is there an imperative that you could give, or something to make your opening line more interesting? Okay, so instead of just saying smoking, I think it's good, or smoking, I think it's bad, use a rhetorical question, use a device, a technique. Okay, number 2 then, computer games. Okay, so this could be a topic that you might get, computer games. What are your views? Okay, so again, think of a technique, something that you could open an article with about computer games. Okay, next then, your favourite teacher. Okay, what the examiner did actually say in all of this was that the question was going to be something positive. Okay, it wasn't going to be negative, it wasn't going to be about your worst experience, because they had said they wanted to give the child the best possible chance of writing about something that they're actually quite passionate about, okay? So your favourite teacher, obviously you don't need to name any names, but just possibly thinking maybe about qualities. You know, could you do rule of three? Have they used cake day? What sort of methods or what sort of things make a good teacher, okay? Next one, you're thinking about your favourite possession. Okay, something that you possess. Again, quite an interesting take on this I had a student do before. It was by not taking it quite so literally. So favourite possession, okay, it might be your mobile phone. It might be, you know, something that you own, a car or something maybe. But they'd actually done to possess self-respect. You know, that is a possession of yours. If you have it, that's something that you have. And that is just taking the question a little bit further. You know, and that's moving you up into those higher categories. If you're not talking about a literal possession, you could talk about something you possess as a person, you know, a characteristic. But don't confuse yourself with that too much. You know, if you can, you know, that's great, and that's going to take you up to higher levels. If you can talk about something that you possess, like a characteristic, you know, dignity or pride or something like that. But if not, you know, you think about a favourite possession. You know, is it a mobile phone? Is it your CD player? Whatever. And, you know, talk about why. But again, think of the opening to that. Could you use a quotation from someone who has a favourite possession?